Every once in a while, a hero emerges from the shadows to bring justice to the world. To bring justice to the world or whatever. Or sometimes just a United Auto Worker Union member calls Donald Trump a pedophile protector. And he answers in kind, saying, fuck you, and then flipping the guy off with his little stubby child finger. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. This particular video you may or may not have seen. It is beautiful, but it speaks to a number of larger issues. Also, this guy has been suspended from his job by Ford for doing so. For exercising his First Amendment rights under the Constitution, he's being punished. It is not illegal. It's not even inappropriate to call Donald Trump a pedophile protector. The only thing that could possibly be inappropriate about it is that he didn't just call him a pedophile himself. Now, here is the video. I'm going to let it, it's very brief, like 11 seconds or so. I'm going to let it run through 3 times so you can just luxuriate in the heroicness of this patriot. And then we'll talk about a couple things. I got reporting from Michigan Advance and then also the Washington Post. They've interviewed the guy. We know his name. We know who he is. And because he's in suspended, there's actually a GoFundMe that I'll link to below if I can find the link. Here it is. Donald Trump, pedophile protector, unappreciative of the moniker. To be within earshot of Donald Trump. Do this for me as a little YouTube reindeer game. Comment below with what you would say to Donald. Obviously, I'm doing a thing here to get engagement on the video. What am I, making secrets here? Comment below. It'll help me and it'll help you get it off your chest. What you would say to Donald Trump if he was in earshot of you. But I'm not here to make fun of his little stubby middle finger. Like, why show it to the world, bro? I mean, it's not like you have to really get it out there, but you have tiny hands to begin with. I wouldn't even say they're like fat and tiny. They're just small. They're infantile. We need more of this. We need more of this when people are within a speaking range of Donald Trump, screaming range of Donald Trump. Who was the dude who was like pointing down menacingly at him? Fuck you, man. Who are you trying to protect? Donald Trump? Get out of here with that. It's just ridiculous. These people who surround Donald Trump that want to insulate him from any criticism whatsoever. It's so funny to me also, as an aside, watching Donald Trump, the most physically protected man on the planet as president of the United States, acting like a tough guy, fuck you, flip you off, while he's protected by Secret Service, while he's protected by armed to the teeth, trained personal protection force. These people are beyond parity with their weakness and their lack of insecurity that we suffer because hug too much, not enough, whatever it is. This is reporting from Michigan Advance about the moment, and they are reporting that this guy has been suspended from his job. Hopefully there's lawsuits to follow, but suspended from his job for doing this. This is the headline. A Ford worker called out Trump. The president flipped him off. Now he's been suspended. Worker called Trump a pedophile protector during tour of Dearborn factory. A union-backed auto worker at Ford Motor Company was caught on video heckling President Donald Trump as a pedophile protector when he visited a Dearborn factory on Tuesday ahead of his address to the Detroit Economic Club. The video that has now gone viral shows Trump responded in kind by mouthing an expletive at the worker twice and displaying a middle finger, if that's what you want to call it, as he walked away. Now the union says the worker has been suspended while Ford looks into the matter. A representative from the United Auto Workers told Michigan Advance that they could confirm that he was suspended, but the length of the suspension was unknown. The union was also uncertain about the process that would follow to investigate the matter. What the fuck do we need to investigate? What needs to be investigated here? The inappropriate nature, the possibly illegal nature of suspending someone for exercising their First Amendment rights? Donald Trump, he had something said to him. He answered in kind. Matter solved. He doesn't need to lose his job. Donald Trump told him to fuck off, flipped him off. It was a battle between men. It was an altercation between equals, right? Why does the company need to bear the weight of possible unemployment for this? Now, this is what's being leveled against the guy. His name is TJ Sabula. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Here's the headline from the Washington Post. Trump makes obscene gesture, mouths expletive at Detroit factory heckler. Oh, man. So good. TJ Sabula, a 40-year-old United Auto Workers Local 600 line worker at the factory, told the Post that he was the one who shouted at Trump. He said he has been suspended from work pending an investigation. Quote, as far as calling him out, definitely no regrets whatsoever, Sabula said, though he added that he is concerned about the future of his job and believes he has been, quote, targeted for political retribution for embarrassing Trump in front of his friends. Is there any other way to see this? Is there any other way to look at this than this is retribution? Because this isn't a normal consequence for, I mean, imagine all of the people who heckled Joe Biden. Go Brandon and fuck Joe Biden and all of the, these are the murky waters, the white water rapids of being president of the United States and having people oppose you or your policies or just who you are. It comes with the job. If every person who criticized Joe Biden would lose their job, I'd be out of a fucking job. Donald Trump is such a weak, insecure, just fucking pathetic loser that he wants to see people lose their jobs, their livelihood, their ability to support their families, their ability to contribute to the strengthening of the American economy because they were mean to him. You know, like a real man. Sabula identifies as politically independent and said he never voted for Trump, but has supported other Republicans. He estimated that he was roughly 60 feet away from Trump on Tuesday, and that the president could hear him very, very, very clearly. 3 verys, so you know he could hear him. He said he was specifically referencing Trump's handling of the Epstein matter. Quote, I don't feel as though fate looks upon you often, and when it does, you'd better be ready to seize the opportunity, Sabula said. And today, I think I did that. Sir, I also think you did that today, or yesterday, as it were. Thank you for your patriotism and your contribution to the conversation. And I'll find his GoFundMe. I'll write it here. GoFundMe. I'll find the link. We'll put it in the description. If you got $5 or something, I'm sure if we amass enough. Look, if we can raise money as a nation for the murderer of Renee Good, who has a GoFundMe that's going off the charts, billionaires are donating $10,000. I'm sure we can scrape together a little nest egg while he's unemployed for this guy who called Donald Trump a pedophile protector. TJ Sabula. Thank you, sir. Anyway, what do you have to say about this? I'd love to hear from you. You can comment below with what you would call Donald Trump, but also just conversation about the topic.
And you're going to have a thing called robots, and robots are going to be a big factor. I predict that robots are going to be a big factor in the future, and it's going to help out.
CBS Evening News continues to slide into fascist enablerism. Is enablerism a word? It is now. Tony DeKoppel is just an absolutely quaking in the knees, bending of the knee, fascist worshiper, just an enabler of Donald Trump, does not want to lose this opportunity of a lifetime to be the anchor of the NBC or the CBS Evening News, placed there by Barry Weiss, who was placed there by a Nepo baby billionaire. They want to act like we're doing everyman news while it's just elites. They all went to Columbia. I don't know where David Ellison or whatever the dipshit's name is who bought CBS, but he's an elite just by virtue of the fact that he's a billionaire. Didn't really have to do anything. His daddy's a billionaire, Larry Ellison. So, that's how it works with these people. But Tony DeKoppel's been traveling the country, espousing that we're here for you. We love America. It's not about the truth. It's not about facts. It's not about objectivity. No, it's about loving America. It's about jingoistic slogans. It's about flying flags. That's what it's about for these people. Because they believe the American people are so stupid that they could be fooled by all of that. I don't think that's true. I think that's true, certainly, for a wide swath of the country. But I think a lot of people they want the facts. And Tony DeKoppel is not providing that. He was with Donald Trump in Detroit yesterday, interviewing him at an auto plant. And I got two clips here, and they are it's getting worse and worse and worse. I thought that when he introduced the program and he said, we're not going to rely on experts. We're not going to rely on academics who spend their entire lives studying one or two subjects to an absolute degree of fullness where they just have an incomprehensible understanding of whatever topic it is, whatever subject matter that they've become experts in. We're not going to rely on those people. When we talk about kidney disease or space, astronomy or astrophysics, we're not going to rely on the people who have dedicated decades to studying that one thing. We're going to ask Joe down at the diner what he feels about it, like that's some kind of a substitute for fucking news. That's what they're doing right now. And I thought it was when he made his announcement, his inaugural whatever about announcing how he was going to run the program, that was the worst of it. I was wrong. It's not the worst of it. When you're facing down a fascist who is now trying to create a white ethno-state in the United States, who is dispatching masked secret police into the streets of the United States to either kidnap them or murder them with summary execution, there's a lot of questions to be asked. When the economy is now in peril because of the tariff policies of Donald Trump and inflation is on the rise, you would think there'd be some questions. You would think there would be some kind of pushback or follow-up. That is not the case. And we're going to begin with that. No follow-up. No pushing back, fact-checking in real time. Watch this, and then I will do Tony DeKoppel's fucking job for him.
The economy, while we have you here, the inflation numbers came out. Overall, not bad, but grocery prices.
No, overall, very good. Good for us. Good for our country. Joe Biden had the highest inflation numbers in history, correct?
The direction.
I have them down to a level that they haven't seen in about 9 years.
And Mr. President, help me understand. When I travel the country and I go all over the place and I talk to everyday Americans, they tell me they don't feel it because grocery prices
might not,
are up.
but they're going to now. I've only been here for 11 months, okay? And, the first few months were really rough. If you look at them, because I inherited a mess. I inherited a mess of crime. I inherited a mess of inflation. I inherited a mess of places closing up and going to other countries. And now we have the hottest country in the world. Tony, we have now the hottest country in the world. And a year and a half ago, our country was dead. We had a dead country. You wouldn't have a job right now. If she got in, you probably wouldn't have a job right now. Your boss, who's an amazing guy, might be bust. Okay?
Might be
That's
what?
how bad. Might be bust. I doubt it in his case, but you never know. Let me just tell you, you wouldn't have this job. You wouldn't have this job, certainly whatever the hell they're paying you. Our country is rocketing right now. We have the hottest country in the world. If they got in, we would be Venezuela on steroids.
Mr. President, I'm just trying to be fair here, just trying to do my job, and I want to talk about this assembly line here.
That is just, chef's kiss. I've only been in office for 25% of my term. How could I have solved anything? And that's the case. Donald Trump has been in office for almost 25% of a one presidential term. 11 months. He'll be in month 47 and still say, I inherited a mess. I inherited a mess. Obvious lies. Easy to fact check. Look, sometimes there are certain facts or statistics that probably aren't at the fingertips of the anchor, who, especially when they're not at an anchor desk with a list of things in front of them. He's just standing there. But some of these things are clearly easy to fact check. He's lying to you, Tony. Don't you just feel personally slighted, personally insulted? I do, and I wasn't even standing in front of the fucking moron. Zero pushback, no follow-up. And it's because he's afraid. Tony's afraid of losing this golden ticket that he finally has to be the anchor, unqualified, absolutely meritless, no qualifications to be in this particular position. He's a morning show dipshit. And now he's the anchor of the CBS nightly news, the seat held, metaphorically, it's not the same chair, the same seat held by Walter Cronkite. So here's what he should have done. Beautiful that these are articles a year apart. One dated February 12th, 2025. One dated January 13th, 2026, right? Same outlet, same headline and everything. Here it is, CNBC. CNBC, a conservative, this is financial news reporting, so it is by nature more conservative. It's not a liberal, this isn't progressivism, this isn't Democrat talking points, this is absolutely conservative. Here's the inflation breakdown for January 2025 in one chart. Inflation, 3%. That is what Biden left Donald Trump. He didn't inherit a mess. He inherited 3% inflation. And what did he do to save us? Same headline. Here's the inflation breakdown for December 2025 in one chart. December 2025, last month. Drum roll, please. Donald Trump saved us from 3% inflation and created 2.7. 2.7%, which, by the way, is on the rise compared to the month before, because things are not looking good, because just now the damage of Trump's tariffs are starting to take effect. A lot of companies bought a whole bunch of supply in advance with that pricing metric that wasn't impacted by the tariffs. And now that they've exhausted that supply of product that they sell, having sold it, now they're buying the new round of prices, and all the prices are going to go up. So Donald Trump is trying to save this image of being the savior of the American economy, of the savior of America itself. It ain't working, brother. It ain't working. And that's all you had to do, Tony. That you didn't inherit a mess. You inherited 3% inflation. It wasn't 9% when you inherited. Joe Biden battled inflation, conquered inflation, got it back down to a normal level of 3%. And Donald Trump is now squandering the handout, the helping hand of Joe Biden's economy, and shit in the bed. Now, Tony DeCoppel very quickly moved on there, afraid for his job, maybe afraid for his life. Such a little quivering coward. Well, I just want to let's talk about the assembly line. To which Donald Trump starts to ramble about robots. Tony gives a great statistic in this clip that there's an entire auto manufacturing plant that is shuttered right now because they can't find enough employees. And Donald Trump, well, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that no vehicles are being made, which means no vehicles are being sold, which means no taxes are being drawn in by the federal government based on those sales. It means that no car salesmen are working to sell those cars, which means they're not paying taxes on wages they would have earned, which spurs the economy. It's just there's all of this down cycle, downstream and upstream effects of this on the economy that Donald Trump wants to say, yeah, but we got robots.
President, I'm just trying to be fair here, just trying to do my job, and I want to talk about this assembly line here.
To me, it's vibrant. Listen to the sound.
It's incredible, right?
I love the sound of an assembly line.
It's incredible. But they've got one not far from here. They just idled the electric vehicle plant.
Well, yeah, but it's going to gasoline vehicles.
Yeah, it's going to go to gasoline.
Well, but why don't you say that, Tony? You can't say.
You didn't give me a chance. I'm coming there. I'm coming around.
I agree. I said I want electric and I want gasoline and I want hybrids. I want everything. But you were going to be forced under the mandate to buy an electric car in a very short period of time. I didn't want that, and I ended that. Now people can have electric, they can have gasoline, they can have hybrid.
But are they going to have people to build these cars? The CEO of Ford said not long ago he's got 5,000 open mechanic jobs. He can't find people willing and able to build them.
That's a good thing, Tony. That means it's vibrant. You could also have things where you have so many people and they can't get jobs. It's true. We are doing so well, it's hard. Now, what's going to happen is people are being trained rapidly, and you're going to have a thing called robots. And robots are going to be a big factor. I predict that robots are going to be a big factor in the future, and it's going to help out. But you have a situation now where our economy is doing so well that it's not that easy to get people.
All right. Donald Trump, listen. Brother, listen. Bring it in. Little bit more. Robots don't stimulate the economy because robots, I know it's very tough. Robots don't pay taxes on the wages they earn because robots don't earn wages. So all of those 5,000 jobs would be people who pay state and federal income taxes. And not only do they pay state and federal income taxes, they take the money they earn and they go to the grocery store and they buy, you know, groceries. The old fashioned, you could go back out. The old fashioned word, the thing, the concept that nobody talks about anymore, groceries. They use their money to go to the grocery store, to go to movies, to buy cars, to exist in our economy. And that gets taken out, which means our GDP gets decreased. Because if every factory just stands up in operation with robots, it's a damaging thing for the American worker and the American economy. It's what billionaires want, so it's what Donald Trump wants, because we need more class solidarity in this country, and Donald Trump ain't providing it. And Tony DeCoppel's not holding him to account, not doing his job, his constitutionally protected job in the free and fair press. So apparently, I need to step in and be a substitute fucking teacher for Tony DeCoppel. Good job, brother. Failure. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. If you're on Facebook, like and follow the Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. Those things are free. Actually, you could do both on both things. That would be even more helpful. You can comment below and you can call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. Email me daily@dollemore.com.
To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. And anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony.
Listen to me when I say this. More importantly, believe me when I say this. Donald Trump and his henchmen want another murder in the streets at the hands of ICE. They want to push the American people to a place where we have no other choice but to react, to create an uprising. They want an ICE officer to be harmed, is what they want. They are trying to tell ICE officers that they have absolute immunity from prosecution when doing their jobs, when murdering citizens, when brutalizing community members. Migrants, or Americans. The Department of Homeland Security tweeted this yesterday. Reminder to all ICE officers. By the way, later I'm going to provide a leaked memo. It was leaked to Ken Klippenstein. I talked about his reporting yesterday. I'm going to talk about it again today because he's got screenshots of exactly what they're being trained on and reminded of in private. And then we're going to juxtapose it right now against what the public pronouncements of the Department of Homeland Security, the Nazi outfit that is the Department of Homeland Security, what they say. Reminder to all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. Federal immunity isn't state and local immunity. You can still be prosecuted. You can still be convicted and sentenced to prison time for murder, even though you're a federal officer. Federal immunity is meaningless when you're committing crimes in a local municipality. Again, to all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. Anybody who lays a hand on you, tries to stop you, or tries to obstruct you has committed a felony. Untrue. Stephen Miller, which we're going to get to a clip here, this is a quote of his, isn't a lawyer, isn't an expert in these matters. He is just a Nazi puke. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator, or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties. The Department of Justice has made clear that if officials cross the line into obstruction, that's a very nebulous, very vague, murky waters there, into criminal conspiracy against the United States or against ICE officers, then they will face justice. One, it should not ever go unsaid. Fuck you, Stephen Miller, you little pencil neck fuck. Now, let's get to the little pencil neck fuck, the little Nazi puke, Stephen Miller, the man who is a racist troll embodied, just the personification of a shit poster. Here he is on with Will Cain, who we're going to talk about later, about smug white women. Ugh. He makes this very same statement.
To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. And anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties. And the Department of Justice has made clear that if officials cross that line into obstruction, into criminal conspiracy against the United States or against ICE officers, then they will face justice.
And that's just not true. And what they're trying to do is make these ICE officers so comfortable, these masked secret police goons. The ICE is now just replete. It's filling up with Proud Boys and racists and white supremacists who want to hurt a black or a brown person, who want to create a white ethno state. This is Donald Trump's personal secret police. And they want them to feel emboldened, free from the threat of prosecution at a state or local level. They don't say state or local level relative to immunity. They only talk about the federal level because Donald Trump, the DOJ is Donald Trump. It is no longer an independent agency. The DOJ will not prosecute an ICE agent. They're not even investigating whether Jonathan Ross committed a crime. They're not even looking into it. In fact, what they're doing, I'm going to talk about it, is trying to prosecute Renee Good's wife. So Ken Klippenstein is a leftist type who gets, he does Freedom of Information Act probably better than anybody out there. But somebody leaked this memo, this internal memo to him that I'll post the link below to his Substack, but also show you these screenshots. And it is remarkable the difference between what's being told to these fucking Nazi goons privately versus what Stephen Miller is trumpeting from the Will Cain and the air that Fox News chooses to broadcast. Here's the title of his Substack. Immigration agents terrified of ICE backlash after shooting. Leaked documents show Border Patrol needs volunteers for Minneapolis surge. So let's just go through these. Legal refresher, First Amendment and Fourth Amendment considerations. Use of force. Use of force is a seizure of a person. They really got to dumb it down for these functionally illiterate trolls that they're hiring to have guns and the ability to usurp people's constitutional rights, to detain, sometimes indefinitely, to kill them in detention. More than 24 people have died in ICE custody just this last year. Just this last year. If an officer agent applies force to a subject or the force yields to an officer agent's show of force, as a seizure, the Fourth Amendment requires that a use of force is reasonable, not pulling the trigger assassination style in the streets of Minneapolis, Jonathan Ross. That's not reasonable. We'll just move on to this next one. What is not a violation of 18 U.S. Code Section 111? Passive resistance alone is not conduct under this particular statute. Examples of this: non-compliance or refusal to cooperate with officers' commands is not a violation of 18 U.S. Code 111. Disobeying commands without fighting back, not a violation. Taking photographs or videotaping an officer or operation in public is not. This is what they're internally telling these ICE agents. Protected activity. This is it. This is what they're telling ICE agents. This is what got someone murdered in the streets, yet publicly they're saying something different. Privately, they're saying this. First Amendment protects religious freedom, speech, press, right to assemble, and to petition the government. Protected activities, speech or expression, nonverbal communications, meaning flipping someone off, photos, recording, media. Non-compliance is protected activity. Peaceful protest, march, rally, leaflet, sign, picketing, not protected, they say. Incitement, very nebulous, again, very vague. Fighting words, incites imminent violence or lawlessness, threats of imminent violence against an officer. These are not protected for us, the citizens, but apparently they're protected for the officers, because I was subject to this. Incitement, fighting words from ICE agents on the ground outside the Whipple Federal Building. And many others have too. There's video after video after video all over the internet right now of these people being maniacs. And then finally here, what is not a violation of 18 U.S. Code 111? Profanity or personal insults directed at officers. I was calling them pudgy little cunts, masked fucking cowards, Nazis, people who follow the orders of a child rapist. I was saying all of this. Protected speech. Rude gestures directed at officers. Protected. It's not a violation. Arguing with officers. Not a violation. Challenging the officer's authority. Not a violation. And talking back to officers during police contact. That stands in stark contrast to what they're being told publicly. That murder away, boys. You have immunity. They are trying to amp this up, ramp up the conflict and the rhetoric and the aggression of their officers. So Donald Trump can ultimately declare martial law. They don't care how many dead Americans it takes to get there. They have an end goal in mind. And I'm not the only one saying it. Minnesota officials are saying it. Many Democratic politicians are saying it. Hell, even some Republicans have said as much in interviews on Fox News and Newsmax. They want it. What do you think? I would appreciate your feedback. If you're in Minnesota, if you're in Minneapolis on the ground right now, and you're an activist, know this list. Know that internally, these are the protections you have under U.S. Code, which is undergirded by, the foundational principles of U.S. Code are the Constitution of the United States. Comment below, let me know what you think. They want to harass the wife of Renee Good. She lost her spouse, and now they want to go after her. This story is both alarming, it should cause you to be afraid, and not in like I'm causing panic here. You should be worried about this story, but also it should give you some hope. That's a weird combination in the same story. but 6 federal prosecutors have left the job because Donald Trump is attempting to force them into prosecuting cases that have no merit whatsoever. This is not about justice in the case of Donald Trump's actions, but it is about adherence to the law and ethics and good decency, basic standards of jurisprudence. And these prosecutors aren't taking it. So you should be afraid that Donald Trump is trying to absolutely rule like a king, like a despot, outside of the bounds of American jurisprudence. But also, you should be buoyed. You should be encouraged by the fact that still in the Justice Department, there are people who aren't going to do Donald Trump's bidding. This is the headline from the New York Times. 6 prosecutors quit over push to investigate ICE shooting victim's widow. Here's the subheadline, and then I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Joseph H. Thompson, a career federal prosecutor who was the acting U.S. attorney for Minnesota last year, was among those who resigned as the Justice Department sought to examine the woman's supposed ties to activist groups. No investigation for Jonathan Ross, who pulled the trigger while filming murder with one hand, documentation with the other. And the video that we have from him just lays bare exactly what I just said. No investigation for him. They're not even going to look into it to see if it warrants charges. Done deal. They erased all of the evidence at the crime. I saw a video yesterday, I'll try to find it, of her car on a flatbed, not covered, just wind blowing, any evidence just blowing away. That it's not preserving evidence of a possible criminal scene, a crime scene. Even if they think she was the criminal in this case, they don't care to preserve evidence in that matter. They're not trying to get to any justice, to anything other than bolstering Donald Trump's view of the world in his attempt to create a white ethno-state. 6 federal prosecutors in Minnesota resigned on Tuesday over the Justice Department's push to investigate the widow of a woman killed by an ICE agent and the department's reluctance to investigate the shooter, according to people with knowledge of their decision. They want to harass the wife of Renee Good. She lost her spouse. And now they want to go after her. She's the victim in this. They want to prosecute the victim of this crime. The only remaining victim, because the other victim is fucking dead, murdered by an ICE agent. Mr. Thompson's resignation came after senior Justice Department officials pressed for a criminal investigation into the actions of the widow of Renee Nicole Good, the Minneapolis woman killed by an ICE agent on Wednesday. Mr. Thompson, 47, a career prosecutor, objected to that approach, as well as to the Justice Department's refusal to include state officials in investigating whether the shooting itself was lawful, the person familiar with his decision said. The Minneapolis police chief, Brian O'Hara, said in an interview that Mr. Thompson's resignation dealt a major blow to efforts to root out rampant theft from the state agencies. The fraud cases, which involve schemes to cheat safety net programs, were the chief reason the Trump administration cited for its immigration crackdown in the state. So not only are they losing the people who were spearheading the investigation into the fraud claims, they're losing him because they want him to do something illegal relative to the other thing. So this should give everybody ideas about what is valid and what is not. Of course, stealing from the federal government, stealing money that could go to otherwise actually needy people is reprehensible and needs to be prosecuted, absolutely. But we need to prosecute the actual committers of the crime, the offenders here. Not going after political opponents like Tim Walz, like he had anything to do with it. Going after Keith Ellison, going after the politicians in the state who had nothing to do with it. Donald Trump doesn't want that, though, because a couple of headlines for a couple of prosecutions don't do anything for him. He needs to go after Tim Walz. He's making it political when it's not. This is a criminal investigatory matter, and he's not handling it like that. Quote, when you lose the leader responsible for making the fraud cases, it tells you this isn't really about prosecuting fraud, Mr. O'Hara said. The other senior career prosecutors who resigned include Harry Jacobs, Melinda Williams, and Thomas Calhoun Lopez. Mr. Lopez had been Mr. Thompson's deputy overseeing the fraud investigation, which began in 2022. Again, began in 2022. This is not a brand new story. This goes back 4 years. Headlines go back 4 years. CNN reported on this in 2022. They want to act like this has all been covered up. This is all a conspiracy. No, the fuck it hasn't. This has been reported on extensively. An investigation began in 2022. Anybody out there? Hey, can you remind me who was president in 2022? Oh yeah, it was Joe Biden. Joe Biden was president in 2022. Democrats weren't turning a blind eye to fraud and welfare because they were investigating to prosecute. Yeah. Mr. Calhoun Lopez was the chief of the Violent and Major Crimes Unit. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Jacobs, Ms. Williams, and Mr. Calhoun Lopez declined to discuss the reasons they resigned. The Justice Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Tuesday's resignations followed tumultuous days at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota as prosecutors there and in Washington struggled to manage the outrage over Miss Good's killing, which set off angry protests in Minnesota and across the nation. As Miss Good was shot, Harmeet Dillon, again, a woman I've received cease and desist letters from when she was a private practice attorney in San Francisco. She's just a Republican operative who now leads, she is the head of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. She told her staff that she would not consider opening an investigation into whether the agent had violated the law, according to 3 federal and former department officials who asked for anonymity because they were not authorized to speak about the situation. At least 4 prosecutors who had already intended to quit or retire signaled they would accelerate their departures, those officials said. Todd Blanche, Trump goon, Trump former private practice criminal defense attorney for Donald Trump, when Donald Trump, after all, is a 34 felony convicted criminal. Todd Blanche, the deputy attorney general now, said in a statement that there is currently no basis for a criminal civil rights investigation into the ICE agent, he said. And then finally here, instead, the Justice Department, instead of, this is just so fucking reprehensible, instead of a criminal civil rights violation investigation, not prosecution, not case, they're not saying put this guy, his head on a pike. They're not saying that. They're just saying investigate to see what the facts are. He's saying there's not even a need to investigate. But you know what there's a need to investigate? Renee Good's wife. Instead, the Justice Department launched an investigation to examine ties between Miss Good and her wife, Becca, and several groups that have been monitoring and protesting the conduct of immigration agents in recent weeks. Shortly after Wednesday's fatal shooting, Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, referred to Miss Good as a domestic terrorist. They're being investigated for monitoring ICE operations and protesting ICE operations. Things that very comfortably fall within the purview of our protections under the First Amendment of the Constitution. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech, the right to peaceably assemble, the right to redress our government of our grievances, enshrined in the very First Amendment to the Constitution. And they want to investigate her for utilizing and exercising her First Amendment rights under the Constitution. Make sense out of that. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video. Please like and subscribe. Like over on Facebook, the Dollemore Daily. Subscribe on YouTube, then go back and do the exact thing on the other thing. If you're not on Facebook, you're not on YouTube. I'd appreciate it very much. You can comment below. We can talk about it there.
There's a weird kind of smugness, by the way, in the way that some of these liberal white women interact with authority.
Where does Fox News find the people they choose to elevate to broadcaster? Where do they find these people who all just speak the same weak boy narrative? They're all thin-skinned, tiny-armed, just traditionally not masculine men. Some would call them little bitches or pussies. Some would say that. I try to refrain from using language like that, except for it really hits hard on these people with just zero self-esteem. Certainly zero awareness of who they are and how they're perceived by other people. Will Cain, he's like a shadow. He's like a shitty, carbon copies on the old pages where you'd write and then you'd turn the page and it would kind of be in there. It's like in triplicate or where at the very last page, it's not even copying over very well. That's Will Cain to Jesse Waters. Both. Greg Gutfeld, he's another one. Trey Gowdy, all of these guys. I'm trying to think of the Sean Hannity. Who are some of the other anchors on Fox News who act like they're just mighty alpha men, bad asses, traditionally masculine? They're all Jordan Peterson-esque, just weak, just physically weak. Could not. Tucker Carlson was another one. They act like they're badasses who are like rough and tumble and we'll mix it up with you. You want to go hands? We'll go hands, right? And they're nothing of the sort. And in this clip I'm getting ready to show you, this is Will Cain. I don't even know Will Cain's background other than the fact that he never served his country in the military while acting rah about the troops all the time. And in this clip, he is essentially what he's doing is justifying the murder of Renee Good. That she deserved, at the very least, she deserved it because she's a smug white woman who protests and doesn't think about the consequences of being aggressive. Because when you're a man, it's remarkable. When you're a man, you know the bounds. You know that there's a likelihood that violence could happen. So you watch yourself, he says. A man who clearly has never been punched in his fucking face in his life. A man who's never probably been in a physical altercation in his life is speaking the language of alpha dog science or whatever nonsense. Look, as someone who has been punched in his face, I got a scar under my lip where I had like 22 stitches when I was bouncing in a bar. I've faced violence. I've delivered violence to other men. This is not somebody who has. Game respects game. Game identifies game. I don't see it in him. Watch him malign white woman. He pronounces it like Jared Taylor, the white nationalist Nazi, talking about her smugness is the justification for her killing.
There's a weird kind of smugness, by the way, in the way that some of these liberal white women interact with authority. Most guys learn early in life that every confrontation has a sort of escalation chain. A joke, a push, an argument can eventually turn to violence. We spend a lifetime reading the signs, knowing when we're getting close, knowing when to pull back, knowing when we're on the edge of violence. These protesters, they seem completely oblivious, or they think they have a hall pass to the possibility that blocking cops or using their cars as barricades could end violently. Tragically, but violently.
Look, in my preamble, I already explained everything that I feel about this Will Cain, this little sausage-armed puke, this little weakling who would probably piss his pants if I was in his face. But there's one word, one phrase that he uses that needs to be talked about. When he says that these protesters, these white women, these smug white women, these protesters, they seem completely oblivious, or they think they'll have a hall pass. So a hall pass would be that normally you would be in trouble for doing the thing that you're doing. But because you have a hall pass, you don't. In elementary school, we'll use it in that. When you need to go to the bathroom, kids aren't allowed to just wander the halls in school, so they get a hall pass to be in the hall during class. So a thing you would normally be in trouble for, you have a hall pass, you're not in trouble. In people's marriages, they talk about a hall pass. Which celebrity would you get a hall pass for that like anybody? Like, it's always dudes talking like this. Oh, it'd be Angelina Jolie or Margot Robbie. Like, either one of those ladies would look at these goofuses who think they'd get the hall pass. So based on what he's talking about, hall pass, something you would get in trouble for, but you don't. She should not be gunned down for protesting. She should not be murdered for protesting. Even if you don't view it as a murder, but just a killing, it was not justified. She didn't need a hall pass to exercise her constitutional rights. Will Cain, you fucking moron. You're justifying the murder of Renee Good, that lethal force was justified because she was protesting. Her last words were, "I don't hate you." She had a smile on her face as she was turning the wheel away from Jonathan Good as he shot her multiple times. I guess what he's saying here is that if you oppose fascism, if you oppose the creation, the formulation of a white ethno-state in America, it's smug white women conduct. But if you're a smug white woman like Caroline Leavitt or Alina Habba or Pam Bondi, Janine Pirro, Ainsley Earhart, Tommy Lahren, these smug women, and you're in support of fascism and you want a white ethno-state, then you're A-okay. They're not smug white women. Caroline Leavitt might be more smug than Kayleigh McEnany was when she was the press secretary. But he doesn't look at that as smug. He only looks at it as smug if you oppose the dear leader. Question authority of Donald Trump, smug white woman. If you bolster fascism in the United States, if you enable fascism in the United States, if you justify fascism in the United States, you're a patriot. Until the folks who lead Project 2025 try to repeal the 19th Amendment and take away women's right to vote, because that's on the table, folks. That's what they want. Multiple people. The church that Pete Hegseth goes to is pastored by Douglas Wilson from Moscow, Idaho, an hour from where I'm from. And he believes that the 19th Amendment should be repealed, that women should not have the right to vote. Tell me about how you want to, it's just remarkable. Not even the trying to act all badassery. Oh, look at all me. I face down giants with my rhetoric. I know when there's a threat of violence. Ugh. Just the attacks on people who care about their neighbors is just, to say it's tone deaf, it's fucking gross. It's weakness. You're a weak person, Will Cain. Euphemistically, when we talk, you're not a man in that traditional masculinity sense. You're a soft-skinned. I really am trying to keep it together here. It's hard with these people. Anyway, what do you think? I'll just leave it there. What do you think? Comment below. I'd love to hear from you about this. Like and follow the Facebook page, Dollemore Daily. Subscribe on YouTube. I would appreciate it very much. Call the voicemail line if you have something to say, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I got fired up on that one. We started to get hot. Face turning red. Face turning redder than it normally is.
Just let us do our jobs, helping the American people. Let us protect people's civil rights.
Yesterday, I had the opportunity to attend a congressional hearing that was chaired by Elizabeth Warren. Whistleblowers, one who has been fired by ICE for blowing the whistle, and the other who is now on administrative leave for whistleblowing, that the Department of Housing and Urban Development is no longer investigating or seeking prosecutions for violations of the Fair Housing Act, which means if you're black and you try to rent a place, the same thing. Wow, what a wild coincidence that Donald Trump did when he and his father would have rental managers write a little C on the back of a rental application meant, oh, this person was colored. And then they wouldn't rent to that person. They would know, oh, this is a black person. We're not going to rent to them. They had to settle out of court with the federal government and change their rental practices. So Donald Trump is trying to dismantle HUD, trying to dismantle the Fair Housing Act because he feels a personal slight that he was attacked. His memory's long when he's been aggrieved, right? But I want to talk very briefly about Scott Turner and who he is. He's like he played football. He was in the Texas state legislature. He's like a prosperity type minister. He's an ordained Southern Baptist dipshit who's like a prosperity gospel guy. Oh, praise Jesus, give me money and it'll come back to you, pressed down, shaken together and running over. The scriptures. That's an actual scripture, by the way. And so Scott Turner is just a devil in a million different ways, but he happens to be one of the black individuals that Donald Trump puts into place. Every time he hires a black guy to do a job in his administration, he always puts him in HUD. Ben Carson who knows nothing about HUD. He's a storied, talented neurosurgeon. Why would you put him at HUD and not like HHS or something? And he's another story. But Scott Turner is absolutely a liar and a grifter and a charlatan and just a piece of garbage. Let me share this clip with you just to give you a flavor for who he is. And then we're going to get to this because I interviewed these whistleblowers yesterday, both of them. Their names, I want to get it right here, are Paul Osadebe and Palmer Heenan. We're going to get to that. But here's a clip of Secretary Turner telling the most insane lie that one can concoct, that 100% of rental demand in California and New York is because of illegal immigration. That our housing crisis is 100% because of illegal immigration. It strains the brain to even process how someone could say something so daft. Watch this.
Over 12 million illegal aliens coming across our border has literally strained our housing supply, caused affordability to go up. 100% of rental demand in California and in New York is because of illegal immigration, over 60% of that across our nation. And so what we have done here at HUD is to ensure that no taxpayer funds go to illegal aliens when it comes to our FHA mortgage program. We signed a memorandum of understanding, a data sharing agreement with Department of Homeland Security to make sure that everyone that lives in HUD-funded housing is indeed an American citizen.
Yeah, I share your disgust. The other thing that they tried to do was withdraw funding for HUD's continuum of care program for all of 2026 that would risk making 170,000 Americans homeless. Here's a very brief clip, not even a minute, of Brittany Page, who, by the way, if you're into homelessness, if you're into poverty, if you're into HUD and the ramifications of this, if you're into these issues of social justice, of poverty being a policy choice, Brittany Page's channel there's not a channel out there that does better work than her. Watch this brief clip, and then we're going to move on to my interviews with these whistleblowers.
A policy change that is set to push at least 170,000 people into the streets after gutting funding for permanent supportive housing services. We're talking about nearly $4 billion in continuum of care funds, the largest source of federal funding to fight homelessness, which the Trump administration wants to shift away from evidence-based policies to short-term assistance and expanded criminalization of poverty instead.
Actually, let me give you one more thing. ProPublica did reporting about Scott Turner, and I'm going to read a paragraph to you that really does it's emblematic of his disrespect, his contempt for poor people. And so often, poor people will say, I'm not a poor person, even though they're a poor person. People who are lower income, working class people, It's okay. I grew up poor. For most of my life, I've been a poor person. We have one car and it's a Toyota. We're not rich, but people need to stop being embarrassed about what their financial station is. And we need to have a little class solidarity one with another here, to stand up for one another, to improve upon the station of each other. A rising tide lifts all boats kind of a thing. Here's the headline from ProPublica. Trump's pick to lead Fair Housing Agency has opposed efforts to aid the poor, as HUD Secretary Scott Turner would oversee billions in housing aid. But as a Texas legislator, he voted against protections for poor tenants and has called government assistance one of the most destructive things for the family. Government assistance to help you feed your family, clothe your family, put a roof over your family's head, provide medical care for your family is the most destructive force for the family. That's Scott Turner. That's the man that these people are blowing the whistle about. Here's one paragraph. Turner supported a bill ensuring landlords could refuse apartments to applicants because they received federal housing assistance. He opposed a bill to expand affordable rental housing. He voted against funding public-private partnerships to support the homeless and against two bills that called merely to study homelessness among young people and veterans. They don't even care about homeless veterans. They don't care about disabled veterans. This is something that we talk about in these two interviews with Paul Osadebe and Palmer Heenan. Paul Osadebe, whistleblower, you are here still as an employee of HUD, but you're not representing HUD. What organizations are you representing here in your testimony today?
I'm a union steward with AFGE 476, which is the local for the headquarters of the Department of Housing, and also an organizer with the Federal Unionist Network.
Nice. So, just to give a lay of the land that you already know, everybody knows. This story is important because I think chiefly, obviously, we want Donald Trump to abide by the law. We want our taxpayers to be used to enforce the laws, but also because of the fact that it's being buried by the recalcitrance and hiding of the Epstein files and Donald Trump's global conquest with Venezuela, with the attempt to turn the United States into a white ethno-state by ICE. All of this is this issue is being buried because of that. So you gave an analogy during your testimony, or it wasn't an analogy. You said that our tax dollars are being used to increase segregation in this country. That's a shot to the gut. Explain exactly in a little bit more detail what you mean by that.
So part of the purpose of our office is to ensure that when the federal government hands out the billions of dollars in funds it does to states and local governments all across the country, that it's actively decreasing the amount of discrimination and increasing the presence of equality in reality all across the country. But when that enforcement is not actually done correctly or not done at all, that means the federal government is giving out billions of dollars and not checking what is being done with it. So the reason that these laws were created in the first place is because very often states and local governments will favor certain groups and attack certain groups with the way that they use funds. They say that we'll build housing here in this neighborhood with white people or able-bodied people, and we won't build it here with disabled people or black people or families with children. And that's federal dollars perpetuating discrimination instead of eliminating discrimination. That's happening right now. I believe that that's happening right now all across the country because we are supposed to be in the process of checking when HUD requests applications to send out money. We're supposed to make sure that, hey, local government, what are your policies on making sure that you're spending this money in a way that doesn't discriminate? Now that's not happening. That's been eliminated, that check. And so when the money goes out, we don't know what's happening with it. But it's actually even worse than that because it's not just that check not happening. Now the federal government is actually inserting requirements to discriminate more or to stop protecting certain classes of people. So
how so?
So, for example, The federal government has its federal housing laws, but lots of states and local governments have their own fair housing laws, and they can often protect more people than the federal government does. For example, the state of Virginia protects veterans. They protect people based on the source of income you use to pay your rent or mortgage. And now the federal government is saying that because you protect more people, we're going to take away your funding. We're going to take the funding that we used to give you to enforce your laws, and we're going to just remove that until you remove protections from people. That goes against the entire concept of how this country works, and even more centrally, that just hurts people.
So, another self-evident point. I'm the king of making obvious fucking points. So, this is obviously by design. Your experience at HUD, your colleague's experience before he got fired. This is by design, that they are systematically eliminating positions so the agency isn't equipped personnel-wise to handle the discrimination claims. Tell us a little bit about how they've been operating in that arena.
We've seen it all across the government in really any agency or position that helps ordinary working people. That staffing has been cut. It's been restricted from doing much of their work, and especially at civil rights offices all across the country. Kind of the same playbook has been run. Restrictions on work, reassigning people out of jobs and to jobs that the administration prefers we did instead of helping the American people with discrimination that they face, outright firing people. All of that is a playbook. And then once those people are removed, we see the weaponization of those agencies. So instead of having a civil rights department that helps you when your landlord says that I'm not going to rent to you because you're black or because you have kids, instead we have the federal government using that same office to say, City of Boston, because you have tried to eliminate discrimination, because you have tried to increase equality, we're saying that that's discriminatory and we're going to use our power to come after you. Meanwhile, the people out on the street, the disabled veterans, the disabled veterans, survivors of domestic violence are not getting the help that they need because the entire agency has been twisted to this other purpose. And as a federal employee, when I see that happening, I cannot stay silent about that. Regardless of the consequences, I have to say something about it because that's illegal and it's wrong and it's my duty to say something. And so I did.
Well, thank you for remembering your oath. I have one last question. I asked senators this, I've asked congresspeople this, I asked Keith Ellison this week in Weir, Minnesota. If it wasn't my orange essence standing here, but Donald Trump's, what would you say to him?
I would say the same thing to him and to Secretary Turner and anyone at HUD. Just let us do our jobs, helping the American people. Let us protect people's civil rights and don't politically interfere. There's a difference between priorities, and any administration is allowed to shift their priorities as much as they want within the law. But that's the crucial part. It has to be within the law, ignoring types of complaints that are valid, eliminating the staff that's necessary to actually do anything, to actually help people. All of that is taking away rights from Americans in practice. That has to stop. Let us do our jobs.
I mean, the saying that elections have consequences, the consequences of an election should never be racism and white supremacy or what we're experiencing right now. So listen, again, it's brave, it's courageous, and thanks for remembering your oath. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well.
So I'm here with Palmer Heenan, a whistleblower, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, in the situation we find ourselves in with Donald Trump, erasing Department of Defense photos of the contributions of black people and science and the Smithsonian. It seems like they're not just attacking black people and brown people and disabled people and women and LGBTQ people. They're also denying them access to justice if discriminated against in housing. You were fired because you're blowing the whistle. Tell us why exactly. I mean, it's kind of a self-evident thing. Why just step forward? You're abiding by your oath. You're remembering your oath to the Constitution. Tell me a little bit why you're taking this bold act.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, as you just said, when I became a federal employee, I did take an oath. I took an oath to defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. And the law, when I came to be a federal employee, that I was told to enforce was the Fair Housing Act. And the Fair Housing Act, amongst all the civil rights laws across the federal government, is unique because it requires a federal agency, HUD, to investigate every case that a member of the public submits to it. It requires an investigator to gather evidence about that case, to take all the facts and then say, okay, I am a neutral investigator. I am determining, based on the evidence that I have collected, that discrimination occurred here. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, the law requires a HUD attorney to prosecute that case of discrimination. It requires us to bring a case and say, we are calling this discrimination out. We as the American people have made a commitment that housing is too important. What's what? Oh, sorry. You are right in the frame. That housing is too important, that housing is too fundamental. We're not going to leave it to chance. We're going to require a federal agency to prosecute those cases. And so when I saw the barriers that were being erected to prevent that enforcement from occurring, this is what I've dedicated my life to. This is what I swore an oath to defend and protect. I felt like I didn't have a choice but to speak up.
So we've been here for a couple hours listening to your testimony. Again, it's just amazing what you're doing. But I want you to repeat, if you will, you made an analogy about calling 911. And in a normal situation where you have an injustice and you need help from authorities, you need the law abided by. What is the situation right now on the ground in HUD relative to people going and seeking the government to enforce the law?
It's bleak, to put it simply and shortly. It's bleak. So, you know, the analogy that I told Senator Warren is the exact right analogy. There are investigators at HUD. Their job, like I said, is to neutrally investigate cases that are brought that are submitted by members of the public. They're essentially the fair housing police. They uncover the evidence, they investigate the scene. If you want to play like a little Law and Order dun-dun sound, that's who they are. That's the people that work at HUD, and they've worked there for years and decades. They're the best investigators in the country. They want to determine whether or not discrimination actually occurred because that's their job. And then there are the attorneys that work in my office. We're the prosecutors. We're the ones that once those fair housing police come to us and say, look, we've uncovered this evidence. We think it's enough. We give them the opinion, yes, it is enough. And then we proceed, as we're required to do by law, to prosecute the case. So right now, if you're a member of the public and you want to submit your case, you say, look, I was discriminated against because I was black. I was discriminated against because I was a Christian. I was discriminated against because of the color of my skin. If you dial that number and you say, I want to submit a complaint, there's essentially no one there to answer. The simple fact of the matter is that years ago, the Office of the Inspector General at HUD already found that even prior to the Trump administration, the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, the office that contains the investigators, was radically understaffed. Since the Trump administration, they've cut that number, that already understaffed number, in half. So we're essentially looking at a situation where maybe only 25 or 30% of the police are actually on the beat. Can you imagine if that were the case in your city, how upset you would be? And yet that's where we are with fair housing. At the same time, they've removed more than 2/3 of the prosecutors who actually bring these cases. And again, what that means is that even in the instance where an investigator is able to get to your case, despite the significant backlog because half of the staff has been cut over the course of the last year, it's going to take months, if not years, for an actual prosecutor to get to that case and say, yes, I can bring this, for you. I can help you get justice, even if they're allowed to, given the bureaucratic barriers that have been put in place.
Well, I just want to say thanks. Listen, in the current climate that we are with Donald Retribution Trump, it's not an easy thing to put yourself, your safety, you're putting yourself in jeopardy. And we need, if we're going to get through this, we need more people. We need more Palmer Heenans. And it doesn't go unnoticed. So we appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
So look, like I said, this is important, but it's being buried by all of the other things that are gobbling up the headlines. This is just as important. Obviously, if we lose our democracy and we're turned into a white ethno state, civil rights won't be a thing anyway. Civil rights won't be something to seek after anyway, because we'll just all be white people. But that's what they want. But this is important. Share this video, comment on this video, engage with this content, share this video with someone who is passionate about this topic. Go subscribe to Brittany Page's channel. Follow these issues. They're important. I'd love to know what you think. Comment below. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine. Take care of one another.